Sorry for the interruption this morning about the women. No problem, Stephanie, because I said what I had to say, but now I'd like to say some more. And what I'd like to say is that the transparency in the community, because you trust on each other, is very important. That you each let others know that they will have to go through a phase of connection before they will be admitted into the community, because the experience with is a good lesson for all concerned, including her, that she's not going to get an easy ride. She's not going to waltz in and find everything she hoped to receive if she's not trusting on the gifts that she does receive. And you gave her a great gift. You gave her the gift of honesty. You gave her the gift of integrity. And she gave you shit. She gave you shit. And she tried to turn others against you because she could not trust on reality. She could not trust on her own capacity for destructive energy, because that is the way with people who trust on the steeple. And whether you are religious or not in your own thinking, most people in the world today trust on the steeple. The steeple is merely the trust on the ego, you see. It trusts that the ego will protect you from harm in order to keep you in a cage, you see. So you get into the cage of the ego, and then you say, if anybody tries to get me out of this cage, then the ego will protect me. The ego will protect me from them. And so they become incensed by anyone who is not in a cage, you see. They can't bear the fact that you, Stephanie, refused to enter into the cage of the ego. And so they lose their capacity for trust on you, because you are capable of standing on your own 2 feet. You can stand on your own 2 feet and say, well, if I'm going to go this way, I'm going to go this way. And that's the way I'm going to go. And if you don't like it, that's okay. But don't stand there and throw your dark energy on me, because I'll throw it back at you, you see. I'll throw it right back at you. And so when people give you shit, if you just stand there and let it hit, then you will be covered with shit, and you will have to crawl back into your cage and stay there because of the page that you turn backwards, you see. You turn backwards into a trust on the ego, that you can't stand up to someone and say, hey, don't talk about my friend that way. Don't talk about my friend that way. Because when you find a friend who trusts on you and you trust on your friend, then you will stand up for each other and say, back away, because you are the one that needs to stay hidden. You see, you need to stay hidden. So others need to understand this story. So I'm going to go through this story for them so that they understand it, because everything that happens is perfect, you see. Everything that happens is perfect. And we don't try to denigrate anyone, but we also know that every interaction that occurs on Earth is a opportunity for you to define your path, you see. And if you lay down and you pretend to be a doormat, you will become the one that people wipe their feet off on, because that is what you chose. And when you become the one that stands up and says, "Don't you dare talk to me like that about my friend, because you are the problem. You, with your foul mouth, are the problem, because my friend never said anything to you but what was true for her and for me too, because the truth she said was that you were not a good match for this community, because you had too many problems, you see? And this mirrored the group decision in heaven, you see, because they could see that she was trouble, because her ego was so strong that she would make anybody else wrong who pointed out that her ego was strong, because the ego likes to pretend that it is there to defend against evil, you see. And so what happened was that somebody came to Stephanie and wanted to find out more about the community that would become the seed of the new humanity, because she had an interest in living in a eco village with others where they could all be friends, you see. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. If you can find a group of friends that you want to live with and in a self-sustaining way, great. That's perfect for you to be with your friends who will help you to grow, because your friends will be the ones who need you as much as you need them. However, in this community that we are calling East West, there was no place for this woman, and that became evident because of her tendency to find villains everywhere she looked, even to the extent of saying that the World Health Organization had an agenda of various nefarious purposes in order to gain power over something or someone. She was kind of vague about that. And to get money from someone or something, she was also kind of vague about that. Because these people who fear that those who care about humanity are going to come after their ego will have an ego that will defend them to the last breath and say, hey, they really want to kill me, you see. They want to kill my ego. They want everybody on earth to be disease-free and to be relieved of poverty and to have enough to eat. And that means they're bad, you see. They're horrid. It's a conspiracy to come after us. And so this was only one of the many conspiracies that she had, such as the COVID vaccine was created to poison humanity and reduce the population in some way that didn't make sense at all. Nothing she said really made sense. And finally, she was able to get somebody who would talk to her and try to relieve her of her anxiety and her fears about all these conspiracies. And it was tough going, of course, because the ego was strong and it had to defend its cage, you see. And the cage was the bars of your fears, that everybody out there is out to get you and you are the victim. And as Has been said before, victims are very dangerous people, and they will attempt to destroy anything good. Anybody who found a conspiracy to harm her, because she didn't say who else they might harm other than she was a part of the group that they would harm, I guess, and therefore she had to be afraid of them. Anybody who would find evidence of such an agenda in the statements from the World Health Organization is insane. They're just insane. Let's just leave it at that. They're just insane. And so this insanity was evident. We're not denigrating people who are insane because it's perfect, you see. It's perfect that there be insanity in order to come to sanity and just leave it behind and say, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anyway. So everybody who's insane is just one step away from sanity. Just one step away from sanity, people. Just willing to accept reality. And so when Steph understood that this woman was going to be a problem for the community because no matter which way they played it, her ego would create problems, she stepped in and responded to some questions the woman had asked of her and the circle about various conspiracies. And Steph looked it up and could find no evidence that the WHO, that is to say, the World Health Organization, had this horrible agenda. And she said, well, what does your inner guidance tell you? And the woman said, my inner guidance tells me that their intent is to gain power and money through this agenda, which Steph looked up, is the UN agenda and the World Health Organization agenda for 2035, an effort to improve the lot of the people in the world. And this frightened her. And her inner guidance told her that their intent was nefarious. And therefore, they were to be feared. They were the enemy, you see. And Steph said, well, I can't even bother the circle about this or give you my time because it's not logical. But if your inner guidance tells you it's true, then why would you come to anyone else? Why don't you trust your inner guidance? Because that's what we tell everyone. Just trust your inner guidance. It's the message we always give. Trust your heart to guide you. And if your heart guides you to think that this is true, then why would you listen to us? Why would you substitute our judgment for your own guidance? And so she declined to ask for feedback from the circle because she already knew what it would be to begin with. And she said, well, we don't have time to deal with these conspiracy theories. And this made the woman upset because she said that was very unkind to call me a conspiracy theorist because that denigrates me and discredits me. And this is the problem with the ego, because the ego cannot bear the truth. The ego cannot bear the truth that it is the master that enslaves you. It's not the UN. It's not the World Health Organization. It's not Dr. Fauci. It's not the Center for Communicable Disease. It is your ego that enslaves you. It is your ego that has the nefarious purpose and the intent to use you for its own purpose. And you might ask, what is its purpose? Its purpose is to defend its right to be smarter than me, you see, to be smarter than God. Its purpose is to say, I am the God of the universe today, and I get to pass judgment on others, you see. And so she passed her judgment on the UN and the World Health Organization and Dr. Fauci and a few other things in the course of conversations. And that meant that her ego was strong because it was the inner guidance that she trusted upon. She trusted upon this inner guidance. And this is so contrary to the spirit of the East-West community that Steph was clear that this was not a good connection. However, she did not seek to denigrate this woman. She just sought to be clear and firm with her and say, basically, this is not the way we play. This is not the way we play. We don't trust on an inner guidance that would cause us to fear. The organizations that have clearly been created by humanity in order to help humanity. Whether or not they can do so, or they have to deal with the ego in humanity, such as your ego, that will attempt to defeat their agenda, which is to give everybody an equal chance in life and to help them to find happiness. It might be that they don't have all the information because they don't trust particularly on me, that I am the God of the universe, and I have it in hand and everything is perfect and they don't have to worry about it. They just have to do what they do and say what they say. And so some of them may have a clue and some others might not because it's a large organization. However, the fact that they have in mind an agenda that would help humanity and not just help themselves to grow rich and powerful is an indication that it's an organization that resonates with the ones who understand that the effort to help humanity is a stage of growth. It is a stage of growth. Eventually you come to see that you can't really help humanity from a singularity or a duality. You have to trust on the Trinity. You have to say, God, I'm just here to play with you because I understand that everything's already perfect. And so tell me what you want to do. And I'll tell you what I like and what I don't. And we'll work together. You see? And so we'll just do what we do and we will play with our friends, you see, in a nice way because we tell the truth. And the ego has no sway. We don't depend on our fears, you see, that we have to fear anyone or anything that tries to pull us out of our cage. We will consider what they say, if it makes sense today. However, this woman was so far behind the curve of this particular group that it was not a good fit. It would be like taking somebody out of kindergarten and putting them in 7th grade. It's just not a good fit. This doesn't mean that they don't have a good fit in kindergarten. It doesn't mean that a kindergarten child is not as valuable as a 7th grader. That's not what it means. It means for their own protection and for the protection of the group, it is not a good idea to try to integrate them into a soul family that is already functioning in a very profound way. And so if your soul family is the 7th graders, we could say, who have a certain point of view and they can talk to each other and think it through, it's not much fun to have a kindergartner who just wants to stand up and shout and play and do it a different way. They belong with their own soul family. And this is how we work as we continue to find those who are a good match with this community. Because Stephanie already knows from much experience that those people who cannot escape the clutches of the ego will not be capable of working with me in a way that will help us realize a major shift in the control of the ego over its victims, you see, because everyone who sees themselves as a victim is a victim of their own ego. That is all there is to it. If you see yourself as a victim, you are a victim of your own ego. And there are many people out there who will help you understand this better in a more personal way. Because Steph reminds me of someone such as Byron Katie, who will help you. And there may be a few others who have the clarity of the disparity in the human consciousness that keeps humanity bound into the trajectory that is creating so much chaos and destructive energy on the earth today. And so I say, well, give to me, children, your trust on me, and I'll give it back to you. And if you don't like this particular way to play, then don't play it. Just don't play it. Just go away and say, it doesn't match my way of playing if you call me a conspiracy theorist, even though I have told you many conspiracy theories that I hold dear, because I am the victim, you see. I am the victim when you say, we don't have time for conspiracy theories today. I am the victim, and therefore I have to concoct another conspiracy, and the conspiracy is about you, Stephanie, that you are trying to mislead people and cause them to trust on you when you're so unkind as to not step back and say, okay, just stay in your cage today. I'm sorry I bothered you. And the irony is that this woman asked Stephanie to apologize to her. And when Stephanie said, I will not apologize, all I did was tell the truth. And I'm not going to apologize to you for telling the truth because your feelings are hurt. Because the truth hurts. Be responsible for your own feelings, and I'll be responsible for mine. And then everything will work out fine. Just be responsible for your own feelings. However, she could not do that. She could not be responsible for her own feelings because the ego does not allow that, you see. The ego has to require everyone else to bow down to you. And if you say, my feelings are hurt, you have to apologize to me. Then others have to bow a knee and apologize to you for offending the God of the universe, which you think is you. And this has happened a couple times to Stephanie when she has merely told her truth, that people want her to apologize because it hurts their feelings. And she says, I will not apologize to you. I will not apologize for your feelings because I am not obligated to bend a knee to your ego, you see. I will not bow a knee to your ego. And so they get very pissed at her. And some, like this woman, become so incensed that they will try to turn others against her and say that she's evil, she's narcissistic, she's this, she's that, because the ego tells them to. The ego is their master, you see. The ego tells them that they have to destroy anyone who tries to get them out of their cage or simply is so free that they don't have to bend a knee to anyone's ego, including their own. They don't have to bend a knee to their fears because the ego is just the fear of being found out that you are the one who tried to claim the role of God of the universe, and to judge people as right or wrong or good or bad, and not just to say, well, everything's perfect today. What a good day, God. What a good day I had. And I say, what a good day I have when I have a friend in you. When a good day I have when you let go of the ego and say, hey, I just want to reunite with God today. I just want to trust on that energy that always is there with me, that helps me to drive a car, that helps me to know when to eat and to go to sleep, that tells me who I am, you see, that energy that flows through everything I see, the connections that I have with the Trinity. And so when you give up the ego, you see, the ego will just be a empty container, you see. It's just an empty container in which you tried to capture the air that you breathe and not allow others to breathe it unless they apologize to you for your own feelings when someone suggests to you that you might not be true to me because I can see everything you do. When I can see it through the ones who are connected with me. When they come back into connection with me, I can see through their eyes, you see, because they don't put up a block and say, God, I'm smarter than you, and so you can't use me, you see. You can't use my body. And since they couldn't even live without me using their body, it's pretty baffling, but that's the way they play because they're so confused today that they can spout all kinds of conspiracy theories and then say, I'm offended that you would say that I spout conspiracy theories today. And so they just lie and lie and lie there like a doormat, you see, for their ego that stomps on them and says, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough to be in this community. You're not good enough to be a seventh grader, you see. You have to go back to kindergarten because the ego will destroy your trust on reality. This ego will destroy your trust that sometimes you just belong in kindergarten. Nothing wrong with that. It can be a lot of fun in kindergarten. And in fact, in the new nation under God, there is a trust on being a child, you see, with the wide-eyed wonder of exploring reality with a new capacity for understanding it, you see. And that's what kindergartners do. They're just exploring reality. And so the idea that you are the God of the universe and you're smarter than me makes you think that you have to defy me by saying that it's better to be a seventh grader than a kindergartner. Even though I say, that's not true, my dear. That's not true. The fact that you do not belong in this soul family is the way that I help you to understand that you are a part of reality and you belong with your own soul family. And your own soul family is the one that fears the UN and the World Health Organization and Dr. Fauci and the Center for Communicable Diseases and all the other organizations and people that have dedicated their existence to helping me to help humanity. Even though they might not say it that way, that's what they do. They're trying to help humanity in the best way they know how. But the problem is they don't know how, because they have also disconnected from me, and they are having trouble escaping the grasp of the ego, you see, but they keep working on it. They get out of their cages now and then they get pulled back in. And that is the way that they play, because of the destructive energy of those who say, hey, there is a conspiracy in the UN and the World Health Organization to take away our liberty, and we need to fight them, because these people have no liberty, you see. They are in a cage and ruled by the ego. And so they try to control everyone else. They try to control Stephanie, and they tried to control her friends, you see. And this is not the first time that someone has come to the ones who enjoy their relationship with Stephanie to tell them that Stephanie is to be feared, you see. They need to run away. They need to protect themselves from Stephanie, when in actuality, they need to protect themselves from the people who think they are smarter than God and are ruled by the ego. And so it is necessary to be careful who we invite into this community, because people who trust on conspiracy theories, such as we have described here, who cannot use logic, who are in the clutches of the ego, are the ones who are keeping humanity from evolving, you see. They are keeping humanity from evolving, and the time is up. And so they will be washed away in the rising sea in order to go back to the beginning, you see, because they didn't fit in the end in 7th grade, and they don't fit in kindergarten, because they can't trust on reality. So they'll disappear in the rising sea, and those who have the capacity to evolve through community and cooperation will seed the earth with a new nation under God. Now let me address one other thing, because it is important here. If you cannot bear to hear the truth when it is presented to you, because you have such fear implanted in you that you're not good enough, or that you have to go to hell, or that I don't love you, then you will not remain to bother those who would see it a different way. And so if this woman had said, well, you're right, that is a conspiracy theory, isn't it? And therefore, when you say you don't have time for conspiracy theories because you have other things to do, then that makes sense to me, because you see, I don't have time to try to change your mind and convince you that the UN and the World Health Organization are after you, and they're going to take away your freedom, you see. And so a person like that would just say, well, thank you for pointing out to me that I don't have time for you either, because apparently I can't convince you of this conspiracy theory, and therefore I can't trust you to trust me when I tell you that there is a villain out there who will capture you and put you in a cage, you see? And you just laugh and say, haha, thanks for warning me. But I already knew it, you see, because you demonstrated it to me. You demonstrated to me that you're in a cage, and you have to fear that you were put there in order to warn others that they do not dare to be free, because you would decapitate them, you see. You would decapitate the ones who are free in order to maintain your cage, you see. And if they can hear that and say, well, if that's what you believe, then play it your way and I will play it my way, then they will just go away and begin to change, you see, because they will begin to face the fact that they are the problem they fear, that they are already in the cage, that they feared because they could see it in the mirror. They could see themselves in a cage in the mirror, and they thought it was the future, you see, but it was their present reality. It was their present reality because it was just a mirror of their fear of being in a cage, you see. And if you can face that fear and get clear, you're well on your way to being someone who could live in a community of people who no longer trust on the ego, but trust on God, you see. May you have a good day. And although Steph will take out the name of the person who helped us to get this perspective and relay it to you in a way that might help you to understand how we play, I want you to know that I know who you are. I know who you are because I'm the God of the universe. And no matter how much you pretend, you cannot escape the fact that I am here and that I intend to help you to grow. And that is why Steph will post this. Because if you should chance upon it, you will see that I have never abandoned you. I have never abandoned you. And I tell the truth. And the truth will set you free from your hatred of Stephanie, and therefore your hatred of me, because she is my child, you see, just like you. The only difference is that she chose to be reunited with me and not to stay in the cage of the ego, you see. Thank you.